This is your official sector trends this morning. Get involved 20146, your SMS line at Metropole TVKE across all your social media platforms. Hashtag business AM. Now, the transport industry has not been spared at all by the pandemic. Movement of cargo by road has also not been easy in the wake of the pandemic, as movement restrictions have at times stalled movement of trucks ferrying goods to various destinations. Now, these challenges have spurred the need to explore technological solutions to logistical problems. Joining us this morning is Mark Mwangi, CEO and co-founder Truck, a tech startup that is actively involved in the transport business in the country. Mark, good morning.
Good morning.
Fantastic. Happy to have you around. Now, Mark, let's start with the impact of the pandemic on the digital hailing business. Has it been for you? Because it's been touted that as long as you're in the digital space, then you were one of the gainers as opposed to one of the losers.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at what happened the first time the pandemic and the lockdown happened, we saw a significant drop in business. I think there was a knee-jerk reaction, and people sort of went home as though they were going home for Christmas.
Yes.
I think this time around we're seeing a slight difference where businesses are trying to stay open. We've obviously learned the few hopes in terms of getting past the borders, understanding what's essential, and also working with our customer solutions can be used to help them solve what is now a logistical challenge.
Are you saying that while we've learned for the past 1 year on exactly how to position ourselves within this pandemic, Mark? Is that what you're saying now?
I think clients have learned. I think platforms such as ourselves are coming in quite handy. It's a really nice way to help businesses understand that, you know, logistics to be really it's not. And we haven't seen the sort of reactions that we got last time around. There was a lot of violence from the police. Many of those questions have been answered. So with a calm response, with customers trying to stay open, with a better understanding of what the authorities are trying to achieve, I think with this time around we'll probably be slightly better off, nonetheless impacted.
So what is the worrying side? I mean, you say, well, we are better off from where we were probably last year when we started going through these COVID-19 measures, because we were in the learning curve of exactly how to operate within it. So what is the worry this time round, Mark, when it comes to this specific industry?
Yeah, just the lack of clarity.
Yes.
So if you look through the releases, if you listen to the press release, if you listen to Buru's speech, it's not actually clear what happens to cargo.
Yes.
So, you know, we're still waiting to find out, as we did last time. Obviously, we've been told we have to change the plans around. We're not sure what that really means, but we're working on it, and we hope that it won't be too disruptive. So I think the worry this time around is the lack of clarity in terms of what happens to cargo. How do we keep businesses open? How do we keep supply chains running? How do we stop disruptions? Because, you know, quite frankly, we don't have any stimulus packages in Kenya.
Yes.
So businesses have to stay open to keep jobs and to keep food on people's tables. It's just, how do we keep going? That's not been very clear. I'm sure they're doing the best they can, but it would have been nicer if there was a cargo sort of set of rules that we can follow, so we know what's wrong and what could hurt.
So when we're talking about another impact that I would like to learn, Mark, as we get into 2021, which is another wave of containment measures that we've seen from the government in terms of trying to stop the spread of the coronavirus pandemic, would you also say that when it comes to volumes that you were moving prior to COVID-19 and during COVID-19, that you will say, well, the volumes would reduce because of affected businesses across the board? And how is that this year as well, Mark?
Yeah, so, you know, if you look at that last time, volumes probably dropped something like 60%. I think this time around, we've seen businesses more hesitant to shut down.
Yes.
I think the hospitality and tourism businesses, so hotels, commercial kitchens, those we've already seen a massive impact on those shutting down, and we've seen the clients in that space go quiet.
Yes.
But so far, this time around, we really haven't seen any impact elsewhere. I'd like you have to remember though that the supply chains move. So as a good example, if kids were having lunch at school, they're now having lunch at home. So instead of taking the food to the caterer, you're taking the food to the supermarket. So some things are changing. So if you are buying pens in a shop in town, you're now buying pens in a shop near your house.
Yes.
And we see those supply chain changes, and that's where platforms and solutions such as Amitrack come in really handy, because to make those changes is simply a tap of the keyboard.
Yes.
So that's where we come in, and that's how we help that happen.
Pretty much. So let's talk about that blessing in disguise in this specific industry. Now you came up, Mark. Somebody's going to ask you, what is this gap that you're trying to fill that we weren't accustomed to in your industry before?
Yeah, I think you have to sort of add, when you look at that space previously, between a cargo owner and a truck,
yes,
you had up to three middlemen. They also introduced a layer of complexity and opacity. To put that in sort of in another way is to say, if something happens to your load, if something is stolen, if something is damaged, it's very difficult to find out whose fault it is and who should pay you back for that.
Yes.
So what Amitrack does is it fills that gap in the sense that it connects a cargo owner directly with the transporter. And this has two things. So if you think of something like toothpaste in Kenya today, something like 60% the cost of toothpaste is transport. And a lot of that is on this side. And it's more than 5 times what it is in, say, developed markets. So by connecting these two directly and then allowing an element of competition in the way that we price, you find that you can reduce that cost by up to 40%. And that's really the gap that Amitrack is trying to fill. And if you go through how people book transport in Kenya today, they walk outside their gate, they speak to 3-4 different people, they speak to 2 or 3 middlemen. What Amitrack does is it allows you to speak to thousands of transporters at the same time.
Yes.
If good business is always getting 3 quotes, Amitrack allows you to get 100 of quotes at the same time. So that's basically where the technology sits in.
Pretty much.
And once you're getting our converted transporters, we know who they are, we know who owns the vehicle, we have their documents, we've insured your load, and you're getting the best price you possibly could, which means that you're always getting an efficient, competitively priced, secure form of transport in a very convenient manner online or on our mobile app.
Yes. Mark, somebody's going to ask you, if you look at your business model, it's sort of hinged on your client, this transporter or this business person who knows that you actually exist and they are able to navigate within your system and know exactly the way it works, which therefore begs the question, that technology aspect. Mark, have you been forced to, in your marketing strategy, you actually train your target clientele on exactly how to use your platform and what comes with it? Is that what you're investing heavily as an Amitrack now, just to move volumes within your operations?
I mean, we think of it like we have 2 customers.
Yes.
So we have the people who have the cargo, the people with the load, that want to move it from A to B.
Yes.
And we have the transporters who get to move that load for the cargo owner. So they're definitely 2 sets of clients. We have made the platform as intuitive as we possibly can. So we hope and we continue to endeavor to ensure that you never really need any training to use it.
Yes.
It's very intuitive. So if you can think, for example, when you open your Uber app and you try and book a taxi, you don't really need to go to class to do that.
Yes.
And that's currently in transport, that's the golden standard. They've invested a lot of money to make that happen. And so we have companies like that that have set standards that we aspire to achieve. But obviously in Kenya, slight differences in terms of how Africans respond to slight differences in terms of culture, and slightly different problems in terms of what we're trying to solve. But we try to make those intuitive. So when you go online, you're a driver, you look at a job, it's clear where you're going.
Yes.
It's clear what it is. The instructions are detailed out. The map is there. And therefore, when you're saying, I will do this job at this price, we're working very hard to ensure that you understand why you're doing what job you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to do it.
You mentioned something very interesting there, Mark, which was actually going to be my next question in terms of the culture that we have in the country. Well, we've been called laggards when it comes to actually adopting technology and new things that are happening within our economy. Is that what you've had to fight? And if you're fighting it, to what level would you count it as part of your marketing strategies?
I think I wouldn't say that we're laggards.
Yes.
I just that if you look at technology deployment in a space such as ours, logistics has been a bit behind.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we have this mindset where we think we're worse off, but I actually disagree. I think that Africans are at the peak of what's happening. There are fewer of us, like in any other country, who are hesitant to go the digital way.
Yes.
Because it introduces a lot of transparency and it forces trust. And the system is self-regulating in the sense that you get rated by your driver and you rate your driver. And there's a lot less room for things such as corruption. So maybe those guys might complain. But on the whole, I think we've actually had an experience that most of our transporters and most of our businesses have been able to pick it up. And you know, we're coming up to our 15,000th delivery. We've never actually lost a load. So our experience so far has been, if you give Kenyans the opportunity to do an honest day work, they jump at it. So I'm very encouraged. I think it'll work out for the best.
Pretty much. All right. Now, we've actually also mentioned a very important point there, that you are on your 15,000th delivery. Mark, from what you said this morning, how would you rate the adoption of the solutions that you're trying to introduce into the Kenyan space, going by these numbers that you're talking about this morning?
Yeah, I think our adoption been as fast as our marketing resources have allowed.
Yes.
So we have over 10,000 downloads now. So we have something slightly over 5,000 vehicles on the platform today, and we continue to experience. At the moment, last year we actually grew the business almost 400%, and this year we see no changes in that trend. Although I'll probably just point at COVID and say we don't yet know the impact that's going to have this time around. It's only been a few days.
Pretty much. All right, let's talk about that as well, Mark. Somebody listening to you and then saying, how do I get to be part of that platform, either as a truck owner or as a driver as well? How do you go about it?
Okay, so as a truck owner or a driver, you simply go on the Play Store, you download the Army Truck Drive, Army Truck Fleet app, and you get registration.
Yes.
That allows you to give us all your details. It allows you to download all the documents we need to make sure we've screened and everybody on the app is vetted. Once you've done that, you have to call to get approval, just to make sure we've checked who you are, we've got the correct driving license, we've got the correct IDs, the correct insurance documents, the correct logbook details. And once that's done, you're good to go. You can see all the jobs that you can transport and you're free to.
Pretty much. So if you look at that statistic that you gave me this morning, and I'm going to come back and talk to you about exactly how the operations have been, that you've never lost a load. How do you make sure that, well, you are able to actually bridge in this this technology presence vis-a-vis the physical presence, which other people would like to think that, well, physicality is what will make sure that you don't lose your load or good while you're actually moving with it across the country?
Yeah, I think the idea that Kenyans are in some way not honest is based on I don't think there's any evidence for that in terms of doing business. So
Yes.
our experience has been by the drivers knowing once they complete the delivery, they're going to get paid. And by experiencing that several times, they develop a singular focus on completing the delivery. And they end up being very, very driven and industrious in getting that done. So I think I put that down to the fact that we've developed sort of a trust and transparency, which is actually our motto,
Yes.
Amitrust.
Yes.
Between not only ourselves and the drivers and the clients, but as an ecosystem. Everybody understands how it works and understands that this connection is for everybody's benefit.
Yes.
So by being fair, by being transparent, you bring in an ecosystem trust, an ecosystem way of working that enables these things to happen without any issues. But we obviously check who the driver is. We check who owns the vehicle. We know that. We have the documents. We also overlay cargo insurance. So if something happens, it is covered. I guess my point was just that I was surprised that we've never really had to use it because we haven't lost a load.
So let's talk about when it comes to the supply chain in the country. Mark, are there any existing loopholes? And from your outside look, would you say that we're working towards streamlining this chain in this country?
Yeah, I think maybe the only bit that's only now beginning to develop is integrating systems such as ours
Yes.
with the customers' internal systems.
Yes.
So there isn't any manual steps from what happens in their industrial base, what happens in their warehouse, and how that then ends up with one of our transporters. I think we can actually have a digital connection right from the very beginning of the production line, all the way through the warehouse, into the supply chain, all the way to the end customer. And I think that's beginning to happen. We have what's called an API, which means digitally connect to Amitrack, and Amitrack can just automatically handle your deliveries without intervention whatsoever.
Looking at exactly from when you launched in the country up to where you are right now, Mark, I want you to talk to me about that personal feeling of your sense of direction about Marketplace Kenya when it comes to this specific industry. Which is what I'm asking, well, does it give you the hope that your future plans that you have for Amitrack are actually going to be realized within the Kenyan marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, we're Kenyan. We're made and bred in Kenya. We started here.
Yes.
But we definitely aspire to do more than just Kenya. We launched the app in February of 2019, and since then we've seen an encouraging level of adoption. We've definitely seen encouraging growth rates, and we continue to have exciting discussions with partners and clients that lead me to believe we'll continue to grow. I think beyond that, we aspire to move to different markets. But at this point, it would be too early for me to comment intelligently about what those are and how we go about it. But
Yes.
It's definitely in the plan.
Pretty much. Now, Mark, let's end like that, therefore. I like the way you're saying, well, you don't aspire just to be in the Kenyan market, going by exactly your adoption rate since you launched in 2019. Can you talk to us about the strategic partnerships and also collaborations that you see yourself getting into in the country and across Africa, just to make sure that long-term vision is actually achieved?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I think the more exciting one for a platform such as this are some of the social and ethical impacts business has. So, for example, we have an Amitrack Care program, which tries to better the lives of drivers and transporters on the application. So last year, we partnered with Eneza Education to provide discounted digital education programs to our partners' children during the lockdown.
Yes.
Something that was coming quite handy. I think this year we're launching through discussions with a financial partner called Possession. We're hoping to launch an invoice discounting program, even for invoices outside of Amitrack, to enable drivers to have the capital they need to fuel, to pay their drivers, to repair their trucks. And looking forward, the pandemic has highlighted the issues within healthcare. So we are now launching discounted health insurance covers for our transporters and their families. And on the other side of the platform, we enable our larger customers to use the existing fleet of vehicles more efficiently. And I know it's a little bit of a stretch, but that actually reduces greenhouse gas emissions, because it means instead of buying a truck, importing it, leaving it parked outside all day, you're actually using a vehicle today that was idle, that maybe was running its return trip empty. You then fill that and you reduce greenhouse in that way. And at the same time, you're not only enabling supply chains of SMEs, you're also creating employment and passing income to our delivery partners. So in that way, if you look at it that way, there is a huge social impact, a huge economic impact just from partnering up with us and working together.
Pretty much. Mark Mwangi, CEO and co-founder, Amitrack. Thank you very much for making your time this morning.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure.
Take a short break. Once we come back, your economic review, top on that, our public debt. Is it ever going to stop rising? Once we come back here on a business app.